there's a lot of items that the Huronia Museum has acquired over the last 76 years that we actually have outside. So we have a large number of outside exhibits. One of my favorite exhibits is this particular item. It was actually used in downtown Midland about the turn of the century, so that's 110, maybe 115 years ago. A horse trough on this side, and what's really interesting over here at the back of is where people would receive or get a water or a drink of water, and then down at the very bottom, way down in here, is a dog trough. So you were able to water the people of the town, the dogs of the town, and all the horses of the town. And of course, this was quite common well before the arrival of automobiles, which really didn't come into this area until, I would say, 1908, 1910, 1912. These outside objects, of course, this is a very, very large buoy. This was used out in Georgian Bay in several different locations. It weighs about 8 tons and shows people just how large these pieces of equipment really are. This, of course, would have been chained to the rocks and the bottom of the lake, and the other end, of course, would be used or affixed with an acetylene light, which would flash, and acetylene was then transferred eventually to electricity. And of course, electricity, these had floating little panels that would try to provide enough power for these kinds of lighting systems that are way out in the middle of the bay. This is an anchor from the SS Venetia. The Venetia was built in the United States about 1902 and was acquired by James Playfair about 1922. And this was donated to the museum about 10 years ago. And so we have this beside the buoy, as it needs to be chained to the buoy in order to prevent its removal. So this very nicely carved stone, of course, says Post Office, AD 1900. Midland actually got its first post office in November of 1872 through Thomas Gladstone, who was really the first retailer in Midland. But his facility was rebuilt in 1900, and a portion of the Georgian Hotel, which the Gladstone family owned, was turned into the post office. And so from 1900 until the post office, the Canadian government built what was both a customs house and a post office at what is now the town library, which was 1913. So that dedication stone is still on that building. But this dedication stone came to the museum sometime in the 1940s, and we've had it sitting here adorning our front entrance for the past 37 years. This item is actually a foghorn. Now, if we plugged this in and fired it, we would probably remove most of the glass in the town of Midland, because this is got a very, very powerful capability for sending this signal a very, very long distance. So this comes from the Western Islands Lighthouse, which is really Midland's most northern lighthouse facility. And we got it in 1996 when we did the major project Alone in the Night. This, what appears to be a cannon, is in fact a gun that shoots ropes for very large ships to be able to tie up to docks. So what you would do is you would fire this, and the coil of rope would sit here, and the projectile would go off onto a jetty or onto a dock, and it would take the rope with it. They also could shoot flares. So if the ship was in distress, these little cannons could shoot the flares up into the sky, indicating, please come to help our boat in distress. So they were fairly useful little items that traveled on most Great Lakes ships at the turn of the century.